Listen to Tara McGowan talk to Crooked Media's John Favreau about the importance of creating digital channels. Sometimes it's easy to fall behind.
The good news is, Tara has some ideas about how the Democrats can catch up.
I believe the only solution, an antidote to this challenge, is to have our own communication, like our own owned channels to communicate to people directly. And that does not mean in nefarious ways. It does not mean to spread lies or misinformation. It's the opposite. But what we have to do is we actually have to compete.
Tara's right. It's one of the reasons we started Crooked Media. And now Tara's actually building another one of those channels herself. After working as a digital producer for Obama in 2012 and as the director of digital strategy for Priorities USA in 2016, Tara started Acronym, her nonprofit digital firm that's creating progressive ads and content for 2020. Acronym isn't making these ads the same way it's always been done by the same old Democratic ad firms. They're using an approach that's both more creative and more data-driven.
We'll look at a very large audience of people and take, 10 different messages around how Trump has been really bad for the economy. So those messages could be, the impact of offshoring jobs, the tax cuts for the rich and squeezing the middle class further, the trade war, what have you. And then for each of those messages, we'll develop tons of content, memes, GIFs, videos, etc. Then our creative director will go to the team and be like, okay, what are all of the different visceral, values-driven, identity-driven ways we can express this message? And they'll build out all this content. And then what we do is we push it out to a broader audience of voters in, say, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And then what we're doing is we are actually surveying groups of these voters who are getting all of this content and learning on a bi-weekly basis what of these messages and what of the actual pieces of content we're delivering is having the most impact at chipping away at Trump's approval rating among those voters in real time.
Is that kind of thing happening anywhere else among any other organization?
Yes, it's happening in the Trump campaign.
For Wolfpack to create its own messages in digital channels, start with a few key issues. Let's go with recruiting, awareness, and outing disinformation. Well, recruiting is obvious. Awareness. This was recommended that we send lawmakers a video that clearly described Wolfpack's mission, the resolution, and the consequences. The amount of disinformation being distributed about Article 5 is really bad. I think this is a good place to start. Let's look at a couple examples.
There have been advocates both on the left and the right for many years that had advocated a constitutional convention for nefarious purposes or good purposes. However, the term constitutional convention has become toxic. Most Americans realize it's a tremendous risk to the Constitution we already have as well as our Bill of Rights. So I believe today's modern advocates are simply using different names. Whether you want to call it a Conference of the States, an amending convention, or the Constitutional Convention, which is what it really would become, they're really all the same thing.